Welcome to this session on philosophy of education. In this session, we discuss on Aurobindo's ideals of education. In the modern India, we have many original thinkers on education like S. Radhakrishnan, Rabindranath Tagore, Swami Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi and so on. Among the leading educational thinkers, Sri Aurobindo had a prominent role in reviewing and reorganizing the educational system in India. Like other educational thinkers, he also criticized the British system of education and believed that it can produce only loyal servants of government. We need a search for a better system of education in the country among the reformers and intellectuals. We know that it is high time to review the principles of education expounded by them and to examine their validity in the present context. Sri Aurobindo occupies a preeminent place among other contemporary philosophers of modern India. One of his contributions to Indian philosophy is his reinterpretation of the ancient Vedic and Vedantic thought. He had also presented the philosophy of Upanishads in a new light and in all its integrity and depth. From his works on ancient thought, one could easily find out his new orientation to Indian thought and also in some respects a higher dimension to it. It was believed that he was the only thinker who had developed a full-fledged system of Advaita Vedanta. In this respect, he made himself as a great philosopher and founders of the schools of the Vedanta like Sri Shankaracharya and Ramanuja. But Aurobindo's interpretation on Advaita Vedanta got a slight difference and is known as Purna Advaita. Sri Aurobindo has been widely acclaimed as a yogi, a seer, Vedic scholar, political leader, social reformer and also a great educationist of his era. Apart from all this, he was a great patriot and his first concern was always the good of motherland. Thus, he was given a national system of education which may be adopted for the educational reconstruction in India. He also tried to develop Indians as world citizens and the forerunners of the advent of the supramental race upon earth. His whole philosophy always given importance to individuals and nature, but humanity also. Hence, it follows that his educational perspective aims at the needs of the country in particular and humanity in general. In his philosophy, he always stressed importance on the concept of Swadharma as a law of life. Through his writings, he always warns us that each individual in this nation should fulfill his Swadharma as in Mahatma Gandhi. Hence, it derives that the purpose of education according to Sri Aurobindo is to prepare the individual to serve their roles according to their status in society. He had written extensively on the subject of education and was headed the first National College of Education of Calcutta. Aurobindo's philosophy carries a number of influences from his early life. In the first place, he had studied Western philosophy, especially the philosophers of the ancient Greek thinkers such as Plato and Aristotle at a very early age. Another influence along with these includes modern philosophers like Hegel, Whitehead and the vitalist Bergson etc. Apart from all these, he had studied the ancient Indian philosophies including darshanas, particularly Shankaracharya's Advaita Vedanta and Yoga of Patanjali. Though he was much influenced by all the above thinkers, he relied chiefly on his own vision, reviewed and reorganized and formed a synthetic and comprehensive vision of reality as his own. We could find a freshness and originality in his works. It is not very easy to get an exact philosophical description of his standpoint. In a sense, his philosophy can be called idealistic because it conceives reality as spiritual. In another sense, it fixes an ideal for mankind towards which all our efforts have to be directed. But one difficulty is that it cannot be called abstract monism or theism of a personalistic variety. As Haridas Chaudhary said, Aurobindo's philosophy can be called Purnadvaita or integral idealism or just integralism. In such an integralism, reality has to be indeterminate, even monism cannot be attributed to it. In this sense, it can only be suggested that reality can be apprehended in some spiritual supra-rational insight. It is called integral because it both accepts and sublimates the opposition between the lower nature and the higher nature, between matter and spirit. Integral education. Sri Aurobindo's integral education always involves the training of all the aspects of individual's mind and personality. Generally, almost all the contemporary Indian thinkers believed that man is a combination of both physical and spiritual aspects. Through right education, it is our duty to enlighten the physical nature to the level of spiritual. Only through the spiritual awareness one could realize oneness among the diversities. This is what we need for eradicating social inequalities. In our teaching methodology, Sri Aurobindo insisted that we have to start with sense training. Our mind has the faculties such as judgment, comparison, analogy, reasoning, imagination, language, grammar and meaning of the logical faculties, etc. In every child, these faculties are immense but in a dormant condition. The duty of the teacher is to arouse curiosity, imagination and natural interest in the child, so that he may spontaneously inquire, understand and learn. Another very important duty is to create interest in life, work in children to develop their instruments of knowledge with the utmost thoroughness to give him mastery of the medium he must use. That is one of the primary duty of a teacher. Integral education that Aurobindo put forward is not only spiritual, but also rational, vital and physical. By integral education, he meant the complete development of the individual, including his physical, vital, mental, psychic and spiritual development. The whole development of the individual is needed today as in Mahatma Gandhi. Aurobindo's education is called integral because the inclusion of all aspects of the individual being, that is physical, vital, mental, psyche and spiritual. Second reason is that education is not only for the evolution of the individual alone, but also of the nation, and finally to the humanity as in other contemporary educational philosophers, especially as in Swami Vivekananda. The concept of integral education is initially presented by Sri Aurobindo in his essays on Gita and shows the essential content as outbringing all the facets of an individual personality. According to Aurobindo, the ultimate aim of education is the evolution of humanity. His concept on the evolution of humanity includes the evolution of nation, which in its turn depends on the evolution of individual. In Aurobindo's scheme of evolution, the principle of gradual growth is unity in diversity. Thus, each individual in nation and each nation in humanity has to develop a system of education according to its own swabhava and fulfilling its swadharma. In integral education, a synthetic understanding and a holistic view of the universe and life around is required by all the people. Another inevitable feature of integral education shows its importance to all round balanced, harmonious and integrated development of the individual. Development cannot be isolated and segmented. It consists of physical, social, emotional, intellectual and spiritual life and powers of the child should be tapped and unfolded in an integrated way. In short, education is a gradual process of transforming man into an integrated man. Though he was a great nationalist and a champion of Indian culture, he did not blindly glorify it. He was quite aware of its defects and the need for its reformation, rejuvenation and renaissance. Supramental education. According to Aurobindo, education should be supramental, that which leads to our evolution towards the higher stage. The evolution starts from physical, the vital, the mental and the psychic, and finally to supramental stage. In the physical education, it concentrates only on the education of the body. Physical education includes the order, discipline, receptivity of the body, etc. Its principal aspects are: 1. Control and disciplines of functions, 2. A total methodical and harmonious development of all the parts and movements of the body, and 3. Rectification of defects and deformities. Vital education is very difficult, but it is indispensable. It involves sense training and the development of character. This character again will be developed according to individual differences. It requires transformation of the instincts and emotions, drives and propensities. Mental education involves: 1. The development of the power of concentration, 2. Organization of ideas around a central idea or a higher ideal or supremely luminous idea that will serve as a guide in life, 3. Development of the capacities of expansion, wideness, complexity and richness, 4. Thought, control, rejection of undesirable thoughts, etc. 5. Development of mental silence, perfect calm and a more and more total receptivity to inspirations coming from the higher and higher regions of the being. Sri Aurobindo admits that as we reach in our thought the line at which the evolution of mind into overmind changes into an evolution of overmind and supermind, we are faced with a difficulty. We are constrained to seek for some exact or precise idea and a clear description of the supramental existence. Aurobindo mentioned that mere mental state cannot be possible to describe the nature of supramental existence. It is so difficult to give a precise and exact idea of supramental idea of mind. Hence, it is impossible for mind to forecast in detail what the supramental change must be like. According to Aurobindo, supermind is a state beyond mind and therefore cannot be understood in terms of mental categories. Supramental stage of mind may be a perfect integration and consummation of spiritual nature and experience. The soul that emerges as a result of the supramental transformations would become supermen or supramental men. On 24th of November 1926, Aurobindo achieved the supernatural powers and came to be known as Yogi Raj, the ascetic of the highest order. Again, the supramental men would not be men of ignorance, according to Aurobindo. He used a word that meant for the men of knowledge as the Gnostic beings. This transformation then will seek to establish a race of Gnostic beings are not ignorant, but they are men of knowledge, hence the name Gnostic. Gnostic beings' whole way of being, thinking, living and acting would be governed by the power of a universal spirituality and which is essentially unitary in character. Its consciousness is integral and therefore, it would also harmonize and unify apparent diversities. That is why the Gnostic being will always have this sense of integral unity. It can also create a harmonic unity even with the still surviving mental beings. Hence, the Gnostic being is a perfect and complete individual having self-knowledge in all things and at all moments. It is completely divinized spirit. The physical, vital and mental education leads to the development of personality, but the psychic education alone leads to the future evolution of man. However, Aurobindo's educational system does not aim only at the adjustment and normal development of the human personality, but its total growth and transformation. We came to know that the idea of psychic education has not been developed in any existing philosophy of education. The inner core of the psychic education is the achievement of our identification with the psychic principles in us. According to Aurobindo, this may be reached by psychological, religious or mechanical methods. Everyone will have to find out the method best suitable to him and his aspiration. Aurobindo insisted that the psychic education requires sincere and steady aspiration, a persistent, dynamic will, concentration, revelation, experience. The supramental education consists of the above stages as a prelude to its realization. Only through these stages one can attain the supramental status. One of the significant contribution of Aurobindo to the field of education is the supramental education. This is of great importance in the present context when most of the educationists are realizing the need for an educational system aiming at man making. In the present social context, each and every action of individual leads to egoistic ends. Then Aurobindo claimed that we need a new type of education which he called supramental education, work not only upon the consciousness of individual being, but upon the very substance of which they are built and upon the environment in which they live. Aims of education. Perfection. One of the major aim of education that Aurobindo mentioned in his philosophy is perfection. As a perfectionist, he never satisfied with partial remedies. According to him, his integral yoga as a solution not only of the individual needs, but also of the social and political problems facing nations and humanity as a whole. He considered the individual as a growing soul with a being, a nature and capacities of his own. Hence, it follows that the aim of education according to him was to realize these capacities and grow into a fullness of physical and vital energy and utmost breadth, depth and height of a spiritual being. The aim of education is to enlighten the powers of the human mind and spirit to evoke knowledge and will enhance the power to use knowledge, character, culture, etc. For this purpose, a program of sense training, body building, character formation and development of logical and other mental faculties, religious education and finally training in integral yoga is necessary. Moral development and aesthetic development should go side by side. Cultivation of values. One of the crucial issue of man today is the chaos of values. Old values have been challenged while new values have not firmly taken their place. This is the confusion we are having now. His social philosophy discussed this problem particularly. The values to be cultivated should be physical, mental as well as spiritual. We see that character formation very much depends on values. Aurobindo regarded harmony as a supreme value and other values are spirituality, divinity, evolution, ascent, transformation, etc. All these must be cherished and developed, but the most important value required for all growth is sincerity. He observed that once that is developed, the rest follows. Right emotions and samskaras, swabhava and nature are the foundation of Sri Aurobindo's scheme of education. Aurobindo not only aims at moral status, but also going beyond it, rising above virtue. This is what is called supramental status. The ultimate ideal of the school, according to Aurobindo, is man making, as in Swami Vivekananda's philosophy. It prepares the educand to work first as a human being and then as a member of a nation and finally as an individual. Most of the present confusion of values is due to an inversion of this order. He also believed in three principles. They are individuality, commonality and essentiality and corresponds to educand, the society and humanity. Harmony. Another important aim of education is to establish harmony which is considered as the key to understand Aurobindo's thought. He was always tried to find out harmony in individuals, community and humanity as a whole and aims its realization. Through his relentless work, he seeks to achieve harmony of his different aspects such as physical, vital, mental, moral, religious and spiritual education. In fact, he tried to find out harmony of different individuals in a community are not identical but diverse and therefore complementary. Hence, he proposed an educational system in which details must be planned according to individual differences. Evolution. Aurobindo's structure of philosophy rests in his theory of evolution. It stands and falls with the truth of evolution. However, evolution has been felt and realized by almost all the thinkers of our age. Therefore, he also aims at the evolution of the individual nation and humanity through education. This evolution, starting from matter, life, mind, psyche and spirit, which continued as spiral. He calls it nothing but supramental education. In his philosophy, evolution involves not only growth but also transformation, not only adjustment but a more intimate harmony. His education aims to educate the true individual potential within each student, to help him to manifest that within him which is uniquely his, so he may find that as a perfection to be offered to life as his individual contribution to a collective perfection which is the evolving spirit of man and the true heritage to which he aspires as noted by N.C. Dowsett. This evolution can be achieved by man's opening and uniting with the universal divine. In other words, this requires divine perfection. Humanization. Like other contemporary Indian thinkers, Aurobindo also aimed at a man-making education. He claimed that along with the individuals, nations have to grow as members of one humanity. This growth always leads to the growth of the whole, not the isolated parts. His system of national education always aims at evolution of humanity. He tried to establish progressive unification of the race and who at the same time would be prepared to embody the new force descending upon earth to transform it. Now, let us summarize. Sri Aurobindo's integral education always involves the training of all the aspects of individuals' mind and personality as in Mahatma Gandhi. He added that through right education, it is our primary duty to enlighten the physical nature to the level of spirituality. He claimed that only through spirituality one can realize oneness among diversities. Education is not only for the evolution of the individual alone, but also of the nation and finally to the humanity as a whole. Thus, each individual in nation and each nation in humanity has to develop a system of education according to its own Swadharma. The aims of education includes the following features: perfection, cultivation of values, harmony, evolution and humanization, etc. There are a few assignments for you to work out. 1. Explain the notion of Gnostic beings. 2. Conduct a debate on integral education contributed by Sri Aurobindo. 3. Conduct a class seminar on the merits and defects of the present education system. 4. Practice yoga in the classroom with the help of a guru. 5. Explain the role of theory of evolution in education. I can suggest some books also for your further reference. 1. Purnima Majumdar, Sri Aurobindo, Diamond Books, New Delhi, 2004. 2. Sat Prem, Sri Aurobindo on the Adventure of Consciousness, translated from the French Institut de Recherches Evolutives, France, and Mira Aditi, Mysore. 3. Ram Shankar Mishra, The Integral Advaitism of Sri Aurobindo, Motilal Banarsidass Publishers, Delhi, 1998. 4. Sat Prem, On the Way to Supermanhood, translated from the French by Marie Pondac and Michael Danneau, Mora Aditi, The Mothers Institute of Research, New Delhi. 5. Ramnath Sharma, Textbook of Educational Philosophy, Kanishka Publishers, New Delhi 2007. 6. Y.K. Singh by Rujika Nath, Education in Emerging Indian Society, APH Publishing Corporation, New Delhi 2000. 7. B.K. Lal, Contemporary Indian Philosophy, Motilal Banarsidass, Madras 1992. 8. Kirit Joshi, Philosophy and Yoga of Sri Aurobindo and Other Essays, Meera Aditi, Mysore 2003. Thank you for watching this session. We will meet in another session with another topic. Till then, bye.